information nous pour après-midi, nous avons un président élu et pays États-Unis n'a parlé de président Donald Trump, jeudi, qui te parlé à distance dans un plus gros forum économique dans le monde là, qui est organisé à Davos. Davos là, li trouvé en Suisse. Te gen un pile gros potentat dans l'économie qui était là. Mesdames et messieurs, te gagné et non te gagné donc directeur général Bank of America qui était là, Brian Moynihan, directeur général groupe Blackstone qui c'est Stephen et Schwarzman qui était là. Te gagné un paquet de gros potentats qui étaient présentés. Eh bien dans forum ça, président Donald Trump non seulement il parlait de économie, il aussi parlait de sale gain pour le faire pour peuple américain tout bon dans jour qu'a venir là yo. Après intervention de Donald Trump là, on a senti vraiment américain pour le connaître moun qui gagne chance rester dans pays États-Unis dans jour qu'a vinn là yo pour vivre des très bons moments, l'aime dou des très bons moments. Donc le président lui vraiment annoncé donc l'âge d'or pays États-Unis. Nous allons voir ça un petit peu à la fin lui-même en détail parce que nous allons commencer bon grand point yo et puis reste yo ou capable faire jeu fort pour capter c'est pour anglais qui difficile m'a qui t'entendre parce que dans dernier temps fin compte qui ça pral venir pas seulement mauvais moment dans domaine immigration et bien nous gagné ICE qui dans la rue cap arrêter moun ICE arrêté un gros chef gang donc nous n'avons pas encore trop de détails sur ça un gros chef gang haïtien OK un gros chef gang haïtien il a arrêté monsieur dans Boston et monsieur t'a même fait connaître eh bien li pape retourner dans pays d'Haïti moi gagne image que me pral faire et ouais là mesdames et messieurs t'as semblé Donald Trump pas sous jouet du tout gen Marco Rubio qui pral visiter Panama pendant qu'on connaît Donald Trump a fait en pile pression pour le capable prendre canal Panama. Ça semble première visite Marco Rubio c'est dans Panama lui-même li a fait li. Ça qui vient pour le pays d'Haïti, nous allons regarder si nous pouvons rejoindre Zamino Ederson, soulignant et donc OK, donc pas de problème Jodi et nous pas prendre Ederson pour après-midi. Donc pas de trop grande chose dans le pays d'Haïti, nous pas de trop grande chose pour le pays d'Haïti. Donc on regarde dans la Tibonite donc ça me gagne dans la Tibonite seulement pour me partager ensemble avec vous gagner yon nèg qui était dans gang ti rivière la Tibonite qui allait dans plateau central mais au ta mette main sous monsieur dans plateau central dans zone plateau central yo mette main mais sous jeune homme ça dans plateau central monsieur était dans prison t'assemblé yo bay monsieur Bouakale. Et nous avons une actualité dans la Tibonite Jodi qui c'est 23 janvier 2025 là et gang grand griffe ça vient utiliser une autre stratégie côté on prend même habillement avec moun qui dans jardin pour yo te ka faire massacre sous travailleur yo ka vinn travail ou bien yo arrivé kidnapper yo OK donc ça veut dire nèg yo changer rad yo fait ça que c'est moun ka vinn travail ça c'est base grand griffe dans rivière la Tibonite yo à dire donc c'est moun qui fou donc à dire nèg gang ça vinn fou kounye ya donc vieux paysan qui pral travailler terre qui pas posséder rien ou aller pour kidnapper moun dans jardin là grand gou prend yo kounye là yo pas ka sur grand rue pour yo kidnapper moun mais l'or kidnapper paysan on connaît ou kon paysan puis bien passé donc qui ça pral joindre dans men OK pour te ka faire massacre dans jardin oui yo arrivé à kidnapper 3 moun. Donc on appelle ça gang misérable. OK et mais nos zone côté gang grand griffio fait Ariana donc Ponce-Rico, Marques, Lanmo et nan Garel c'est dans zone ça yo te prend même habillement ak moun k'ap travail yo pour yo te capable vinn faire massacre sou yo eh bien non jardin ça passe dans Ti-Rivière la Tibonite zone map di yo la yo c'est zone Ti-Rivière la Tibonite j'aime te dire m'a regarder si m capable joindre rapidement oui donc pas gain perdu temps du tout non c'est bien rapide on regarder si m capable joindre vidéo jeune homme ça et lui-même eh bien qui se nèg côté KO la Tibonite monsieur nèg KO la Tibonite depuis monsieur allé dans dossier gang ni et yo mette la patte sous monsieur dans dossier gang non. Donc là it's gonna be hard to find this guy, you know, it's gonna be really hard, you know, to find it. But let me try. Bon try pour m'kaboué si m'kab partager je nomme ça avec nous et je nomme ça ensemble avec nous. OK. Bon bah monsieur on nom donc avec nous ça la plus facile eh bien pour me joindre monsieur. Bon mon seconde monsieur parler toute bagaille m'getan jeune monsieur oui là. M'getan jeune monsieur et m'getan jeune monsieur qui a parlé.
Naki gouboudé na balmis.
Na balmis là?
Oui.
De avec journaliste.
Ou tu kon konti pour nek yo?
De kon konti.
OK. So vinn faire les maïsad.
Maïsad, m'vle sauver la vie, m'ba vinn dans bagage ça encore m'di comme ça.
Combien moun tu en pile, on tout en tout dans gang là?
M'ba ti aucun moun chef.
On a konti pour nek yo maïsad.
Y'a m'ba gen 4 jours là maïsad. M'ba ti aucun moun et m'ba ti aucun moun.
Côté zam ou te sauvé avec.
Pas sauver aucun zam. Et puis si nous voulons connaître si nous sauver zam, quel que soit moun, quel que soit côté là.
C'est pas tout le monde qui connaît, il pas comme l'autre a sauvé.
Ça veut dire pour mais quel que soit moun, quel que soit côté qui a pour qui compte ban antenne sur nèg yo si nous connaissons si nous bien tant par exemple bien ba ça va relé dit si nèg qui était parti appeler Sama qui devait sauver tête li a demandé s'il de zam, s'il de sauver zam nèg.
Mais tout nèg ça te connaît, ben nèg ça aussi allié comment on fait connaît ou t'a sauvé on dit tout nèg non on dit tout nèg yo.
Depuis les Abdou, nèg qui était parti qui récemment mandel s'il te sauver azam.
Mais on te connaît on est parti.
Pas nèg qui connaît parti. Seulement me lever, vous avez chef. Mbadou. Mbay non. Seulement lever. Seulement lever pas me lever et me dit comme ça.
Ça me déballer.
Pas me lever bonjour comme ça, me dit comme ça ouais.
Entendez monsieur quoi?
Excusez-moi, posez-moi quelques questions. Monkey boy.
Posez quelques questions.
Monkey boy.
C'est mon gars. Ouais, c'est mon gars.
Ça va faire. On va faire vidéo.
Mon gars même si vient lever.
Naki gouboudé na balmis.
Na balmis là?
Oui.
De avec journaliste.
Ou tu kon konti pour nek yo?
De kon konti.
OK. So vinn faire les maïsad.
Maïsad, m'vle sauver la vie, m'ba vinn dans bagage ça encore me dit comme ça.
Combien moun tu en pile, on tout en tout dans gang là?
M'ba ti aucun moun chef.
On a konti pour nek yo.
Combien jours maïsad?
Y'a dit, m'ba gen 4 jours là maïsad. M'ba ti aucun moun et m'ba ti aucun moun.
Côté zam ou te sauvé avec.
Pas sauver aucun zam. Et puis si nous voulons connaître si nous sauver zam, quel que soit moun, quel que soit côté là.
C'est pas tout le monde qui connaît, il pas comme l'autre a
sauvé. Ça veut dire pour vous, quel que soit moun, quel que soit côté qui a pour qui compte ban antenne sur nèg yo si nous connaissons si nous bien tant par exemple bien ba ça va relé dit si nèg qui était parti appeler Sama qui devait sauver tête li a demandé s'il de zam, s'il de sauver zam nèg.
Mais tout nèg ça te connaît, ben nèg ça aussi allié comment on fait connaît ou t'a sauvé on dit tout nèg non on dit tout nèg yo.
Les Abdou, nèg qui était parti qui récemment mandel s'il te sauver azam.
Mais on te connaît parti.
Pas nèg qui connaît parti. Seulement me lever, vous avez chef. Mbadou. Mbay non.
Nous avons déparlé.
Seulement lever. Seulement lever pas me lever et me dit comme ça. Pas me lever bonjour comme ça me dit comme ça. Ouais, bamba tout pour tout fait. Bah c'est on côté que les marques. Pas de marques ça nèg yo. Pendant ma caisse pas rien qui connaît mais seulement on n'est pas mis. On n'est pas mis.
Yeah, donc bah, monsieur pral prend bois calé, OK? Donc monsieur prend bois calé dans Maïsad selon dernière information qui arrivait vinn jeune nous là. Donc nous quitter exactement pays d'Haïti à bien rapide et puis nous rentrer dans l'international là. Donc yo commencé sérieusement et dossier déportation. Déportation a déroulé sérieusement mesdames et messieurs et Jean qui me dit bah yo commencé bah yo vinn encore plus compliqué. ICE rive arrêté yon membre yon gang haïtien en colère suspecté de meurtre de viol à Boston. Donc F4 Trump Biden pour toujours. Selon dernière information, agent Immigration Custom Enforcement ICE, Dieu te mette au non-travail semaine ça. Il arrivé à arrêter plusieurs délinquants violents dans la ville Sanctuaire et parmi délinquants violents ça yo, ICE lui-même li arrêté. Pas oublier que moi dit nous là, moun ICE a cherché yo. Nous-mêmes, nous pas besoin de tout craser comme nous non, c'est illégal quand même ou pas safe. Et c'est ça yo dit. Mais plus gros problème non, c'est si vous connaissez où son monde y a cherché. Donc en quelque sorte tout le monde y a cherché déjà connaît, y a cherché déjà. Donc c'est question de mettre à l'abri et donc pas mettre à l'abri, mettre au côté pour jouer nous plus facile parce que monsieur Haitian dit quel que soit côté au caché depuis yo même yo gen antenne sous y a joué nous et quel que soit côté au caché. Donc tout rend ni plus facile pour nèg Haitian les au jouer nous yo doit peser au moins mais vle ou pas et moun ça faut prendre yo parce que comment m'a dit nous là et ba déportation font belle bagaille mais salvé gon série de nèg c'est kou y a marché fait pour rentrer caché Amérique gen nèg li fait kou en Haïti là le caché Brésil là li veut Brésil li fait kou pi red li rentre Chili là li veut Chili li fait kou pi red li rentre Mexique même Mexique li fait kou sou moun yo li rentre États-Unis illégal. OK ba nèg ka fait kou li même li pa prétendre application CBP1 li rentre illégal li fait kou et puis li rentre nèg ça yo pral déporter yo connaît pas connait qui côté yo pral rete qui côté yo pral aller est-ce que yo pral ce domaine yo pas capable parce que yo fait coup ce domaine est-ce que yo pral Haïti yo pas vle à Haïti c'est le cas des chefs gang ça yo joindre donc le nom n'est pas mentionné donc nous ne connaissons pas le nom. Mais yo arrêté monsieur. Agent Haïtien dans Boston yo possédé à 8 arrestations notables, gen plusieurs membres gang et MS-13 suspects de meurtre, viol et membres gang haïtiens avec 18 condamnations récentes selon Fox News qui était accompagné ICE dans arrestation yo. Ça veut dire qu'on y a et arrestation pas seulement on bagaille et bah non donc Fox News accompagné ICE tout non bagaille là pour qu'a fait le fond gros tollé mondial et te gen également au moins une arrestation collatérale ça veut dire ICE était placé en détention un immigrant illégal qui pas été ciblé initialement arrestation à Boston non c'était seul membre gang MS-13 là qui était libéré par ville Sanctuaire donc mardi. Comment bagal a fait? Ça veut dire ça yo libéré yo, ICE connaît yo et puis ICE lui-même là il cherche yo côté yo ya. So nous dit gen une seule arrestation collatérale, ça veut dire moun qui pas cible ICE, c'est pas lui-même ICE t'a chercher, et bien ICE lui-même li jeune. Si n'a regarder figi ça là, mes amis. Donc si n'a regarder figi monsieur mais figito eh bien ICE mette to en bas code son gros gang méchant et son gang haïtien alors que ICE Boston t'a arrêté immigré illégal faut que nous rapporter que était tande une femme et qui t'a crié merci agent yo donc quelques arrestation fait également objet de notices rouges et qui répond à demande l'autre organisme qui chargeait des applications de la loi qui visait à trouver et arrêter un suspect. Ça me t'a vle faire qu'on là, ça veut dire déjà gen moun qui dans la rue cap surveiller depuis ouais suspect là en côté pour yo tarele ICE pour ICE lui-même vinn chercher. L'en joine yon méchant gen probablement l'autre et d'autres qui illégalement aux États-Unis. Ils ne sont peut-être pas une priorité en matière de criminalité, mais nous pas abandonner yo, c'est ça ICE fait qu'on est. Donc ça veut dire depuis venir dans un lieu où un chef gang ou a parler dans base, il y a une pile possibilité dans base ça pour gen l'autre gang qui l'a tout. As you can see, bah là, il vient viral qu'on y a. Arrestation ça yo été faite alors que l'administration de Donald Trump là, li prête pour lancer opération expulsion massive. Donc lui-même il était engagé pour le mener bien durant présidence. Un changement radical par rapport à politique frontalière d'ancien président Joe Biden non, qui a accueilli quelques 8 millions de monde illégalement dans le pays États-Unis. Hier mardi, premier jour complet Donald Trump, autorité fédérale est arrivée à arrêter plus que 300, c'était 308 personnes illégal criminel dans Boston, Denver, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Seattle, Washington DC, dans Miami pour détenir en vue de leur expulsion. D'après ça, responsable au fait qu'on est. Expulsion semaine ça, donc les expulsions de cette semaine ne sont pas le but de ce que le monde lui promettre. Ils ont effort pour le trouver et expulser aux États-Unis 700 000 personnes. It's not a small thing que au monde gain pour le faire là, j'ai 700 000 nègres que ICE a cherché. Alors, gang ça qui dit le pape tout Haïti, il pas vle tout Haïti, ou a dit qui ça va fait. Donc là, nous espérons que y a livré gang ça yo by l'État haïtien, et puis l'État haïtien lui-même. Moi, dégage, ou la guerre. Plutôt semaine ça, au monde déclaré que agent haïtien disposé de yon liste cible de migrants qui ont casier judiciaire, que yo même y a cherché pour yo arrêter, pour yo expulser yo. En quelque sorte, ça veut dire, haïs pas marcher pour grand messi, li kon côté le bralé, li kon ki moun l'a cherché. Donc, mais si toutefois, ou même, eh bien, ou al rentrer parmi gang sa yo, mesdames et messieurs, by blague, eh bien, y a prend. That's why que dans le pays actuellement, faut faire un pile prudence, gen des moun nous pas connaît moun yo, jusqu'à nous pas connaît moun yo, nous pas connaît côté moun yo t'es sorti, mesdames et messieurs, faites très attention, eh bien, pas mêler ensemble avec moun sa yo, parce que moun sa yo capable laguer non dans chouboum si toutefois ou pas gen papier. Moi-même, d'abdou ça seulement, sérieusement, si toutefois ou pas gen document non pour moun qui légal, m'encourage à faire très attention, pas rentrer dans banque moun parce que y a deux poteaux même gens ak moun sa ou. Comment dossier arrestation t'est passé dans la rue, donc m'pral et quitte regarder comment arrestation lui-même l'état fait, Jean Kababouela, et bien, gros discussion qu'a fait, mesdames et messieurs, donc, bah, après la rue, many, you wanna say that, right? You wanna hear what I say, right? Il y a un pile créole qui parle là. Allez.
You got one too. Why you telling people no? You got one too.
Regardez.
That's the you talk. That's the you talk.
Fresh for real, B.
I'm trying to see what type of power you using.
They're using power.
What type of power you using? What type of power you using?
For real? Yeah. You see
Let me go. Shut the fuck up for what, man? This for
Bon, là, je vais commencer ma question. C'est bon, ça, l'arrestation a commencé. As you can see, store.
Sir, I need you to go over there. Or I'm going to take you in too.
Excuse me, sir. You really have to go in front of them? Seriously? You know what I look for,
I'm about
bro.
to take you too.
You see it, right?
He's doing that up in front of them. Because
He's just walking and then he bump me. If I'm walking like that, you gonna bump me?
Et nous allons pile vidéo pour ça.
Okay, just bump me. Bump me.
bump me. Go ahead, bump you.
But you know you won, right? You know, right? You know you won, right? But I mean, you guys not gonna understand. But you know you're okay.
I don't know why that nigga don't like us. For what? I don't know why you don't like us.
You know what's so funny? That's what they call them. They got somebody got shot, they're not gonna go.
All this, come chill. Come on, man.
They know you fucking won.
Come on, man.
Everything's
Of course, we have to. We have to. We have to. We fucking have to.
That's fine.
Don't give it to them. Fucking have to. Don't give it to them. I want that fucking
Bon, vous n'avez pas recording, c'est you nous ka record. No record like est-ce que vous avez défendre? Aucun monde qui défendre nous. Record. Pas cette vidéo parce que mesdames et messieurs, je voulais partager avec vous comment que arrestation commence raide dans la rue là et arrestation commence raide dans la rue. Donc ou même cap sorti pour éviter arrestation collatérale, make sure ou porter document, make sure ou sorti à green card donc make sure. Donc si ou illégal, donc ça pas servir rien côté green ko pas amène côté document ou pas, on bagaille dans monde mais si ou pas légal ou déjà connaît son cible et sous son monde qui légal, c'est plus mais éviter et entrer dans full moon, éviter chita dans côté nèg a battre nèg chita boire clairin et puis jouer 4 jeux domino, éviter bail ça parce que ou même ou déjà connait gon 4 ans ou a suivre là. Donc c'est 4 ans discipline liée de quoi que pour yo pas prendre. So, veille pour et si gen nèg dans zone côté moun côté Rete, c'est moun qui fait bruit, moun qui fait désordre, moun qui gen mauvais jet. Par Rete côté ou connaît sous déjà connaît gon mauvais jet là, moun la police toujours et a vinn dans zone nan sous gon côté la police toujours a vinn mettre l'ordre dans désordre et panier zone ça. Ça c'est l'autre conseil qui m'kap ban nous parce que genre de vidéo ou regarder là yo ou toujours ouais vidéo ça tout le temps et bien non et pendant 4 ans ça nous pral vivre là mesdames et messieurs. So n'a continuer avec détail nous déportation a avancé, déportation a prend cher et bien et n'a chargé avec déportation et gang haïtien ça lui-même Azukaboué et on l'autre arrestation qui fait à Boston. La figi nèg ça et I wanna show you figi monsieur et marqué mauvais jet. Ouais, nèg la wong, monsieur en colère, monsieur dit le pape tout Haïti, pas gen moun ka fait tout Haïti lui-même, ça son gang yo prend et mais yo dit monsieur son chef gang et monsieur gon casier judiciaire qui long OK dans ville Sanctuaire. Donc monsieur gon casier judiciaire qui long. A dire monsieur gan pile bagay qu'il fait, nèg qui fait viol, nèg qui fait vol, nèg qui touye moun, etc. So, il dit no, I'm not going back to Haiti. I'm not going back to Haiti. Donc, wadim koto apprêté, mesdames et messieurs, les choses sont compliquées. Les informations continuent. Ici, pas jamais pas d'informations ces derniers temps, c'est rangé corps. Mesdames et messieurs, donc, moi, tout saluer sous track ça, eh bien, et Sandra, avec toute belle maman qui c'est vieux moun moins, vieux boule sucre moins, me salue au belle mamie et m'dou là et fait web download. Alors happy birthday et bien que téléphone business là m'geta remettre li à team nan, guys pas oublier m'gon team cap travail mais automatiquement m'gon ti temps m'prend téléphone nan pour m'ka parler à quel boule sucre moins yo. Me salue non tout qui dans Boston, non tout qui Floride, non tout qui côté nié dans New York qui toujours branché mon Canada yo, mais moi saluer nous après-midi également. Donc n'a continuer Marco Rubio, as you can see this guy, c'est monsieur qui secrétaire d'État pour Kounye, monsieur c'est actuel secrétaire d'État. Moi même monsieur en pile, faut que moi disons sincèrement, par contre pour qui ça, moi remets monsieur en pile sans mal à monsieur en pile, bien que monsieur sont républicain et sans mal à monsieur sans maka aller avec monsieur pour croyance monsieur son chrétien pour croyance monsieur et c'est rarement où les cubains chrétiens mais monsieur son cubain ils sont chrétiens et monsieur très sage monsieur très respectueux donc moi même monsieur en pile OK moi même monsieur en pile et moi même façon monsieur en pile. Et Cubain, faut que moi dise que faut que nous pas jamais oublier ça que Cubain gonti sang, gonti l'amour pour Haïti. OK peuple cubain, si tout ancienne génération de pas corrompu yo qui pas trop corrompu, yo gonti l'amour pour Haïti, c'est pays frère nous. Alors joindre Marco Rubio en tant que secrétaire d'État une place qui plus renommé dans pays États-Unis, franchement son honneur. Eh bien monsieur pral faire premier voyage dans Panama. monsieur pral faire premier voyage dans Panama City, côté monsieur pral rencontrer un gouvernement panaméen. Pendant que nous connaissons Donald Trump, lui-même, lui menacé, pour le canal Panama, Marco Rubio pral visiter Panama et avec 4 autres pays encore dans l'Amérique centrale là, mesdames et messieurs, d'après dernière nouvelle, ça pral premier voyage monsieur pral faire en tant que diplomate Washington, département et pour département d'État. Voilà ça, donc d'après ça, Bouzdi, la gen la donne yon stop dans Guatemala, dans Salvador, dans République Dominicaine, avec dans Costa Rica, et Jean-Président Donald Trump lui-même, li te mette immigration dans centre, et ça ne relève politique étrangère, dans agenda pour politique étrangère, et pour le pousser États-Unis, pour le capable et encore repousser États-Unis, prend canal Panama back dans mes Panama, Jean-Président Donald Trump fait connaître, eh bien, canal ça, yo pas de bail Panama pour le te bail la Chine, comme c'est Panama ou te bail Panama lui-même, li gen raison, li bail la Chine contrôler, Trump dit comme ça la prendre. Gon raison qui fait premier voyage là, donc c'est là monsieur lui-même li pral faire selon Jean Bagay Lalé, gon raison pour que premier voyage là fait comme ça. Ça montre à qui point qu'elle prend ça très au sérieux. Ça signifie que programme yo eh bien au commencer ça d'après ça, yo fait quoi dire ça Donald Trump a dit yo it's not a game, Trump li très sérieux, l'el dit ou livrer pour canal Panama back, will take it back. Jean Caboué Donald Trump, c'est pas nèg qui pral lancer. Donc monsieur Saldi a dit net et puis la boîte adresse Colette li, Saldi a dit net sous pas vle, vinn courir sous li. Jean musique la dit ma boîte adresse Colette moi, ça me fait le net, ça me dit le net. Donald Trump li accusé Panama d'est-ce qu'elle était rompu promesse li te fait. Donc là au tabal canal là. Ça veut dire, monsieur dit, il a maltraité les États-Unis, canal là, même bateau de guerre américaine, canal là pas bien traité, il a fait payer un plus gros tarif. Dans le cas ça, c'est pour canal là, back, mesdames et messieurs. Canal là, son voie navigable qui est 82 km qui relie Océan Pacifique avec Atlantique là, à travers Panama et essentiel pour importation américaine, automobile, marchandises commerciales et papote pour conteneurs qui sorti en Asie, etc. You should know that. Ça veut dire que c'est pas canal Panama, toute pile et marchandises conteneurs qui sorti en Afrique yo, pour entrer en Amérique, yo tout yo passé par canal Panama. Sinon, donc il t'a pris un bon temps en route avant yo te arrivé. Mais grâce à canal Panama, ça veut dire yo arrivé bien rapide. Alors, comme vous voulez faire America Great Again, gagner une route qui fouille pour être capable de venir avec marchandises, c'est une façon pour faire. But, gon paquet là-dedans, Donald Trump, c'est pour y être li, et c'est toute force li, pour lui qui côté faiblesse ou lié, au lieu automatiquement li attaquer et puis lui ou faible non point ça, donc la rentrer sous. Donc si lui ou son monde qui a revendiqué, li cap fait back, mais depuis lui ou peur, donc la rentrer net. Actualité a toujours couvri pays États-Unis. Nous avons président Donald Trump qui t'a adressé la Davos à distance journée Jodi. Ça t'a fait journée Jodi 23 janvier 2025. Là. Donald Trump t'a exprimé la distance dans le forum économique mondial qui t'a fait à Davos dans le pays la Suisse. Il t'a discuté avec des chefs d'entreprise. T'as un directeur général Bank of America qui c'est Brian et Moynihan. Il t'a un directeur général groupe Blackstone, c'est Steven Schwarzman qui c'est un monde qui vit dans Floride et lui-même tout qui était présent et un premier grand discours donc le premier grand discours de Donald Trump devant des chefs d'entreprise et des dirigeants politiques du monde entier il prévu donc c'est Jodi donc c'est le premier gros discours et Donald Trump t'a fait dans gros discours ça mesdames et messieurs Donald Trump parlait de tarifs il parlait de et puis gros message lancé c'est pour investir chez yo vini faire investissement yo en Amérique. C'est ça Donald Trump lui-même lui dit, si investisseurs pas veulent faire face avec tarif là pour yo vinn faire investissement en Amérique, sinon il a fait face avec tarif là. Donald Trump lui parlait tout malgré nos pas trop projet de loi ça yo, donc pour le couper taxe pour un paquet moun, elle dit moun ka vinn investir même moun classe moyenne pour le couper taxe et moun ka vinn investir, il a fait payer une petite taxe qui pas aucun pays dans monde là qui ba opportunité ça, elle demande tout le monde qui veut faire business, qui veut faire cob, vient investir avec lui dans le pays États-Unis. C'est le meilleur moyen pour capable éviter toute taxe. D'après déclaration président élu, Donald Trump lui-même, il te fait dans le forum si là. Gros point m'te souligné encore dans forum ça, président Donald Trump lui mentionnait que lui parlait avec président Xi qui c'est président la Chine pour capable aider pour parler avec Vladimir Poutine pour capable camper guerre là. Je te connais que président avec gros point il te dit is gonna et date l'état pral camper la guerre là non moins que 24 heures arriver sous pouvoir mais t'arrivé t'as semblé ça il te pensé c'est pas ça le joindre et bien qu'on y a l'obligé à négocier avec président Xi Jinping pour que Ping te capable aider. Mesdames et messieurs, mettez fin dans la guerre. So, m'bral qui t'entendez comment président Donald Trump l'État fait intervention en quelque sorte mon grand point qu'elle discute là, moun qui besoin vinn faire investissement, vinn faire dans pays. C'est seulement de tout le monde vinn faire investissement dans pays. Il parlait de l'âge d'or américain et monsieur était bien content recevoir lui et il dit et l'année prochaine il espère qu'il a recevoir physiquement dans Davos, c'est pas online, il y a recevoir. Nous allons entendre comment président Donald Trump lui-même l'état parlé mesdames et messieurs. Pendant nous allons entendre l'ensemble, donc pas oublier like en bas vidéo ça, pas oublier partager, pas oublier like li, pas oublier faire ça, donc pas oublier partager et pas oublier like li. Avant m'aller et avant que mal tende président Donald Trump ensemble avec m'a besoin bagay focus sur don bon Dieu ba ou c'est très important. OK pendant que moi ouais ou commencer m'cap dou commencer Johnny ça parce que moins étonné et puis non seulement m'étonné en tout moins dit même culpabiliser tête moins m'était occupé moun. Ça moun a dit depuis l'année dernière m'pas t'offrir l'huile de désenvoûtement, l'huile de prospérité avec l'huile de fertilité. Me regrette parce que m'te prend nous quand même demander excuse parce que m'te prend nous pour des moun qui gen cerveau très coincé même avec majorité haïtien fait. Parce que vocabulaire moun qui croit dans bon Dieu mais qui pauvre dans l'esprit c'est l'argent. C'est l'origine de tous les maux. Et verset à pas, j'aime dit l'argent c'est l'origine de tous les maux. Il dit l'amour de l'argent est l'origine de tous les maux. C'est pas l'argent non, c'est l'amour de l'argent. Et l'autre verset pauvre chrétien, moun qui prend non chrétien pour être pauvre yo, l'autre verset yo gagne, c'est verset qui dit li plus facile pour un riche, pour un chameau rentrer dans Jésus que un moun riche rentrer dans royaume ciel là. Yon nan bagay yo pas oublié de pour fin accepter Christ ou dans royaume non. Ou pas besoin rentrer là-dedans encore. Qu'on y a quelque chose gros sem vini el bon parce que man dans royaume nan déjà. C'est moun qui peut dans royaume nan richesse qu'a fait le pantre moment dedans. Pas besoin entrer encore. Là puisque me fin gagner et royaume nan m'ka gagner tout ça qui sous la terre. On pas comprendre comment on fait petit bon Dieu pas payer carreau pour à l'aise. On pas comprendre comment on fait tous ces chrétiens et puis c'est moun qui maintenant monte tout jour à l'aise. On pas comprendre qui bon Dieu a servi même pour gon papa qui c'est roi ou même son mendiant. On connaît tout roi ça yo fait assez prince lié. Ou mon pas gen papa roi et son mendiant. You have to ask that question to your dad. Say, Dad, I don't understand something. How come you are a king and me, I am a receiver? I don't understand that because if you are a king, I am the child of a king, I am a prince, and as a prince, I have to be rich. I declare over your life, as the son of the king, you are a prince and you have to be rich. In the name of Jesus. Bon Dieu, nous n'a parlé entendre le président Trump ensemble. Entendez.
Hello.
What great honor. What great honor and pleasure to welcome you back to the Davos community. Just 4 days into your new mandate, we highly appreciate your presence with us today. We wish you all the best as you take on your critical work ahead. The global challenges we face today are monumental. The importance of American leadership and your personal leadership in this regard is fundamental and paramount. We are here to hear your vision and policies related to revitalizing the economy and addressing the global challenges. As you might expect, Mr. President, your return to office and your forthcoming policies have been at the focus of our discussions this week. The discussions among 3,000 political and business leaders from over 130 countries who came together here in Davos. We look forward to hearing first from you and then to the follow-up discussion with business leaders moderated by my colleague Børge Brende. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Well, thank you very much, Klaus, and hello to everyone in beautiful Davos. This has been a truly historic week in the United States. 3 days ago, I took the oath of office, and we began the golden age of America. The recent presidential election was won by millions of votes, and all 7, every one of them, all 7 swing states. There was a massive mandate from the American people like hasn't been seen in many years, and some of the political pundits, even some of my so-called enemies, said it was the most consequential election victory in 129 years. That's quite nice. What the world has witnessed in the past 72 hours is nothing less than a revolution of common sense. Our country will soon be stronger, wealthier, and more united than ever before, and the entire planet will be more peaceful and prosperous as a result of this incredible momentum and what we're doing and going to do. My administration is acting with unprecedented speed to fix the disasters we've inherited from a totally inept group of people and to solve every single crisis facing our country. This begins with confronting the economic chaos caused by the failed policies of the last administration. Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy restrictions, crippling regulations, and hidden taxes like never before. The result is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world. Food prices and the price of almost every other thing known to mankind went through the roof. President Biden totally lost control of what was going on in our country, but in particular with our high inflation economy and at our border. Because of these ruinous policies, total government spending this year is $1.5 trillion higher than was projected to occur when I left office just 4 years ago. Likewise, the cost of servicing the debt is more than 230% higher than was projected in 2020. The inflation rate we are inheriting remains 50% higher than the historic target. It was the highest inflation probably in the history of our country. That's why from the moment I took office, I've taken rapid action to reverse each and every one of these radical left policies that created this calamity, in particular with immigration, crime, and inflation. On day one, I signed an executive order directing every member of my cabinet to marshal all powers at their disposal to defeat inflation and reduce the cost of daily life. I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze, and I created the new Department of Government Efficiency. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Scam. Withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord and ended the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate. We're going to let people buy the car they want to buy. I declared a national energy emergency, and that's so important, national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold under our feet and pave the way for rapid approvals of new energy infrastructure. The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we're going to use it. Not only will this reduce the cost of virtually all goods and services, it'll make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. My administration has also begun the largest deregulation campaign in history, far exceeding even the record-setting efforts of my last term. In total, the Biden administration imposed $50,000 in additional regulatory costs on the average American household over the last 4 years. I have promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every new regulation, which will soon put many thousands of dollars back in the pockets of American families. To further unleash our economy, our majorities in the House and Senate, which we also took along with the presidency, are going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, including massive tax cuts for workers and family, and big tax cuts for domestic producers and manufacturers. And we're working with the Democrats on getting an extension of the original Trump tax cuts, as you probably know, by just reading any paper. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA. Already Americans' economic, you can see this, I think, maybe even in your wonderful, wonderful room that you're all gathered together, so many of my friends, but Americans, the economic confidence is soaring like we haven't seen in many, many decades, maybe not at all. Upon my election, it was just announced that small business optimism skyrocketed by 41 points in a single month. That's the highest ever. There's never been anything like that. SoftBank has announced between a $100 and $200 billion investment in the U.S. economy because of the election result. And just 2 days ago, Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure. Other companies likewise have announced billions and billions and billions, adding up to trillions of investment in America, in the United States. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America, but I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. That didn't show a lot of love by them not doing it. I was a little surprised by that. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war. They should have done it long ago. They're very responsible, actually, to a certain extent for what's taking place. Millions of lives are being lost. With oil prices going down, I'll demand that interest rates drop immediately, and likewise, they should be dropping all over the world. Interest rates should follow us. All over, the progress that you're seeing is happening because of our historic victory in a recent presidential election. one that has become quite well known throughout the world. I think a lot of things are happening to a lot of countries. They say that there's light shining all over the world since the election, and even countries that we aren't particularly friendly with are happy because they understand what there is a future and how great the future will be. Under our leadership, America is back and open for business. And this week, I'm also taking swift action to stop the invasion at our southern border. They allowed people to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It was ridiculous. I decided and declared to do, and very, very importantly, a national emergency on our border immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came. That action, as you've probably seen, has already started very strongly. I've deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion. We will not allow our territory to be violated. After 4 long years, the United States is strong and sovereign and a beautiful nation. Once again, it's a strong, sovereign nation. In addition, I'm pleased to report that America is also a free nation once again. On day one, I signed an executive order to stop all government censorship. No longer will our government label the speech of our own citizens as misinformation or disinformation, which are the favorite words of censors and those who wish to stop the free exchange of ideas and, frankly, progress. We have saved free speech in America, and we've saved it strongly. With another historic executive order this week, I also ended the weaponization of law enforcement against the American people and, frankly, against politicians, and restored the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense, and these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector. With the recent yet somewhat unexpected great Supreme Court decision just made, America will once again become a merit-based country. You have to hear that word, merit-based country. And I've made it an official policy of the United States, that there are only 2 genders, male and female. And we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely. Finally, as we restore common sense in America, we're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad. I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did, because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But many, many things have been unfair for many years to the United States. Before even taking office, my team negotiated a ceasefire agreement in the Middle East, which wouldn't have happened without us, as I think most of the people in the room know. Earlier this week, the hostages began to return to their families. They are returning, and it's a beautiful sight, and they'll be coming in more and more. They started coming back on Sunday. Our efforts to secure a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine are now hopefully underway. It's so important to get that done. That is an absolute killing field. Millions of soldiers are being killed. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. They're laying dead all over the flat fields. It's a flat field farmland, and there's millions of Russians and millions of Ukrainians. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. It's time to end it. And here in America, we have big events coming up. Next year, we have the 250th anniversary of America's founding. I'm so honored to be president during that. That's been a big event. They've been talking about it for 10 years. We also have the World Cup. And I understand Gianni's in the room. Infantino, he was very instrumental in helping us get it. He's there with you someplace, I think. And I want to thank him for that. And then we have the Olympics coming up, which I was instrumental in getting also in my first term. And who would have known that by skipping a term, I would get the Olympics? I was upset. I said, you know, I got the Olympics to come and I won't be president. But it turned out through a stroke of luck, or whatever you might call it, that I'm going to be president during the World Cup and the Olympics and the 250th anniversary. So that's going to be 3 big events. And we've accomplished more in less than 4 days. We have really been working 4 days than other administrations have accomplished in 4 years. And we're just getting started. It's really an amazing thing to see. And the spirit and the light over our country has been incredible. Under the last administration, our nation has suffered greatly. But we're going to bring it back and make it greater, bigger, stronger, better than ever before. I want to thank everybody for being with you. I would have been there myself, except the inauguration was 2 days ago. I thought it might be a little bit quick to make it the first stop. But we'll get there one day. We hope to get there. But I do appreciate, I heard the audience is fantastic, and many of my friends are in the audience. And I will be taking questions now from some very distinguished people. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that very powerful speech. And I think you could hear the applause all the way from Davos to the White House. But next year it will be even better, because then you can get the applause here in Davos. So we wish you welcome to our village next year. We hope to see you.
Thank you very much.
So, we also know, Mr. President, that you open up for interaction here. We have a great panel with some of the most distinguished business people in the world. Let me start with someone that you know really well, that I think is almost a neighbor of you in in Florida. Mr. Steve Schwartzman, Chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Blackstone Group. So, Steve, floor is yours.
Well, Mr. President, I'm sure the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia will be really glad you gave this speech today. You've had the busiest 4 days that anybody can imagine, and congratulations for that. My question is about some of the things I've observed here at Davos. It's a terrific forum. I've met lots of people, as usual. I think I've been here 30 years. And a lot of the European business people have expressed enormous frustration with the regulatory regime in the EU. And they attribute slower growth rates here because of numerous factors, but especially because of regulations. And you've taken a completely different approach in this area. And if you could explain the theory of what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and what you expect the outcome to be, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations, Steve. You're a friend of mine, but on a great career. You have had an amazing career, and it continues. I just want to congratulate you. You're very inspirational to a lot of people. I want to talk about the EU, because you mentioned specifically that I've also had a lot of friends and leaders of countries. I've gotten to know them all my first term and a little bit during this period of 4 years, and know them well, like them a lot, but they're very frustrated because of the time everything seems to take to get approved, environmental impact statements for things that you shouldn't even have to do that, and many, many other ways that it takes. And I'm going to give you a quick little example. In the private life, my beautiful private life, before I had all these things happening, the world is a little different. I had a nice, simple life. You knew that. But when I had that simple life, I did projects. And I had a big project in Ireland. And it had to get approval on something that would have made it even better. And I got the approval from Ireland in a period of a week. And it was a very, very, very efficient, good approval. And they informed me, though, the problem is you're going to have to get it from the EU, and we think that'll take 5 to 6 years. And I said, you have to be kidding. And this was before politics. And I said, wait a minute, it's not that important. I don't want to go 5 or 6 years, but it would have been a big investment. It would have been nice, and it would have been good for the project. And I sent the people to the EU to see if they could speed it up. And basically it was a 5 or 6 year wait just to get a simple approval that Ireland gave me in a period of literally not much more than a week. And I realized right then, that was the first time I really was involved with the EU, but I realized right then that's a problem. And I didn't even bother applying to do it. Or if I did, I pulled it very quickly. I have to be very accurate because I don't want to be criticized. He did apply, actually. No, I want to be very accurate. So I don't think I did, but if I did, I pulled it very quickly. It was just something you couldn't wait 5 years or 6 years to get an approval. So a lot of, in a very big business sense, a lot of people are claiming that's the problem. From the standpoint of America, the EU treats us very, very unfairly, very badly. They have a large tax that we know about, and a VAT tax, and it's a very substantial one. They don't take essentially don't take our farm products, and they don't take our cars, yet they send cars to us by the millions. They put tariffs on things that we want to do, like, for instance, I think they actually, in terms of, these are non-economic or non-monetary tariffs, and those are very bad, and they make it very difficult to bring products into Europe, and yet they expect to be selling, and they do sell their products in the United States. So we have, hundreds of billions of dollars of deficits with the EU, and nobody's happy with it, and we're going to do something about it, but nobody's happy with it. So I think the EU has to speed up their process. Friends of mine that are in some of the nations within the EU, great people, they want to be able to compete better, and you can't compete when you can't go through the approval process fast. There's no reason why it can't go faster. So, I'm trying to be constructive because I love Europe. I love the countries of Europe, but the process is a very cumbersome one, and they do treat the United States of America very, very unfairly with the VAT taxes and all of the other taxes they impose. One other, just to finish up, I got a call from the head of a major airline, one of the biggest airlines in the world, and he said, "Sir, could you help us? Landing in Europe is brutal. They charge us fees for everything, and it's so unfair." I said, "How does it compare to China?" He said, it's much worse. And the other thing, as you know, they took court cases with Apple, and they supposedly won a case that most people didn't think was much of a case. They won 15 or 16 billion from Apple. They won billions from Google. I think they're after Facebook for billions and billions. These are American companies, whether you like them or not. They're American companies, and they shouldn't be doing that. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a form of taxation. So we have some very big complaints with the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We'll now go to one of your friends in the EU, Patrick Pouyanné. He's the chairman and CEO of Total Energies. I guess you have a question ready, Patrick, for the president.
Mr. President, as we understand, energy is at the top of your agenda, and it's an honor for me to represent the energy industry tonight. In this panel, Total Energies is indeed the fourth largest oil and gas and electricity company in the world. I will not ask you a question about the oil price. It's quite clear what you expect from us. I will go to gas more. And our company is the largest #1 exporter LNG from the US company. We are a strong contributor to, and we invest in a mammoth LNG projects in Texas, $20 billion. It's far from 200, but it's $20 billion. And we contribute with that to security of supply to Europe, as we export this LNG to Europe. Some experts fear that if there are too many projects developed in the US on LNG, this could have an inflationary impact on the US domestic gas price. And they recommend a pause on these projects. I would ask you the following question. What are your views about such a pause on investments on LNG in the US? What would happen if you would observe an increased domestic gas price because of these exports? And final question, which is important for Europe, would you agree to guarantee security of supply of US LNG to Europe?
Well, on the last part of your question, yes, I would. I would make sure that you get it. If we make a deal, we make a deal, you'll get it. Because a lot of people do have that problem. They make a deal and then it can't get supplied because of war-type problems and other problems. So we would absolutely do that. LNG is very interesting because when I took office for the first term, one of the first things I looked at was there were two very massive plants in Louisiana, a state that has been very good to me, won it by many, many points. And I felt strongly indebted to it, actually. And they said there are two plants that have been under environmental consideration for more than 10 years. And they were costing, as you say, you know how expensive those plants are, but they were costing like 12 billion and I think 14 or 15 billion. But they couldn't get their permits. They were in review for years, many, many years, like a decade or more. And I said, so ridiculous. I know so much about that because in the construction industry, I had to go through it too, but I got good at it after a while. But I saw the projects, and you're talking about a total investment of 25 to $30 billion, and it looked like it was going to end. They couldn't get their permits, and I got them done in less than a week. It was done, completed. In fact, when they called them to announce that it was done, the countries, largely countries, Japan was involved and another country and some very big investors, they couldn't believe it. They actually couldn't believe it. And I said, just do yourself one favor. Don't pay any consultants, because the only one that got it done was me. I got it done because it was the right thing to do for the U.S. and for the world, but the consultants had nothing to do with it. You know, the consultants go in and they say, give us millions of dollars because Trump did it. Nobody called me about it. I just heard it was a problem for years. And I got it done because it was the right thing to do for the U.S. and the right thing to do for beyond. It had to do with energy, very important. So I think it's very important. I think I disagree with one. I think the more that you do, the lower the price is going to go. And what I'd like to see is rapid approvals. We're going to give very rapid approvals in the United States, like with the AI plants, talking to many people want to build them. That's going to be a very big thing. We're going to build electric generating facilities. They are going to build. I'm going to get them the approval. Under emergency declaration, I can get the approvals done myself without having to go through years of waiting. And the big problem is we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? For AI to really be as big as we want to have it, because it's a very competitive, it'll be very competitive with China and others. So I'm going to give emergency declarations so that they can start building them almost immediately. And I think it was largely my idea because nobody thought this was possible. It wasn't that they were not smart, because they're the smartest. But I told them that what I want you to do is build your electric generating plant right next to your plant as a separate building, connected. And they said, wow, you're kidding. And I said, no, I'm not kidding. You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any way to get any electricity. So we are going to allow them to go on a very rapid basis to build their plant, build the electric generating plant. They can fuel it with anything they want, and they may have coal as a backup. Good, clean coal, If there were a problem with a pipe coming in, as an example, you're going with gas, oil or gas, and a pipe gets blown up or for some reason doesn't work, there are some companies in the U.S. that have coal sitting right by the plant so that if there's an emergency, they can go to that short-term basis and use our very clean coal. So that's something else that a lot of people didn't even know about, but nothing can destroy coal, not the weather, not a bomb, nothing. It might make it a little smaller, might make it a little different shape, but coal is very strong as a backup. It's a great backup to have that facility, and it wouldn't cost much more money. And we have more coal than anybody. We also have more oil and gas than anybody. So we're going to make it so that the plants will have their own electric generating facilities attached right to their plant. They don't have to worry about a utility. They don't have to worry about anything. And we're going to get very rapid approvals.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. We'll now go to another CEO that you know very well, Brian Monahan, the CEO and Chair of Bank of America.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, and congratulations and obviously an eventful week for you and your family. If you remember 5 years ago, you came here and we walked among 150 CEOs from all over the world and you engaged with them about your policies and your procedures. This year you're not here, and yet this week was eventful from the orders that you mentioned earlier, literally a wave of orders coming out on immigration, on trade, and many other matters. And so as a representative of the United States here, we got a lot of questions about what does all this mean and how would the president square this with his clear focus on growth, prosperity, market growth, stock market growth, a good bond market, and bringing down prices. So how do you think about the impact of all these orders and how fast they come out and how you're going to balance them with that scorecard of being successful in both continuing GDP growth, bringing down inflation, and also having a good stock price appreciation for the American citizen?
Well, I think it's going to actually bring down inflation. It's going to bring up jobs. We're going to have a lot of jobs. We're going to have a lot of companies moving in. You know, Brian, we're at 21%. It was at 40%, and I got it down to 21%, the corporate tax. And it was actually, if you look at state and city, it was in many cases much higher than 40%. I got it down to 21%. And now we're going to bring it down from 21 to 15% if, there's a big if you make your product in the U.S. So we're going to have the lowest, just about the lowest rate. It'll be, the 21 is on the low side worldwide. The 15 is about as low as it gets. And by far the lowest of a large country, a large, you know, rich, powerful country by far, not even a contest. So we're going to bring it down to 15% if you make your product in the USA. So that's going to create a tremendous buzz. We're also probably going back to the 1 year deduction where we deduct, you know, we did that originally, and that was amazing what the impact that had, the 1 year deduction, which built up over a period of time and then it expires. But we're going to go back to that when we do the renewal of the Trump tax plan. We have to get Democrats to approve it. But, you know, if the Democrats didn't approve it, I don't know how they can survive with about a 45% tax increase, because that's what it would be. And so I think they're going to do. We've been working along with them pretty well. I think it's very hard for a political group to say, let's charge people 45% more. So I think we're in good shape, but we're actually doing a reduction for business and small businesses where you're going to bring it down to 15%, which is really something. And by the way, speaking of you, and you've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank, and that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business. And I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
Mr. President, I'll say that your friend Gianni said hello, told me to tell you hello, and we look forward to sponsoring the World Cup when it comes, both this summer for the club and next year. So thank you for getting that for the United States.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll now go to Anna Butin. She's the Executive Chairman of Banco Santander, one of the big European banks, and also in the U.S. So, Anna.
Mr. President, congratulations on a historic victory. I believe you don't know me as well as my fellow panelists, so a few words. Santander is one of the largest banks in the world by number of customers, 170 million. That's more than my friend Brian or my friend Jamie have. And those...
They fixed the regulation.
That's coming, that's coming.
That was cheeky.
we're a big investor in the United States. We have many million customers, 12,000 employees. We're one of the largest auto lenders, and we recently launched a fully digital bank called Open Bank. We strongly believe banks have a pivotal role in the economy, and we can accelerate growth and help many more customers. That's what we're doing in the United States. So, as Brian pointed out, we very much welcome your focus on deregulation and reducing bureaucracy. So my question is, what are your priorities in this regard, and how fast is this going to happen? Thank you very much.
I think it's going to, thank you and congratulations. I know very much about your bank, and you've done a fantastic job. Congratulations. We are going to move very quickly. We've moved very quickly. We've done things in the last 3 days that nobody thought were possible to do in years. And it's all taking effect. It's going to have a huge impact on the economy, a huge positive impact. Money was being wasted on crazy things. I mean, the Green New Deal was such a total disgrace. How that was perpetrated, and it was conceived of by people that were average students, less than average students, I might add, and never even took a course in energy or the environment. It was just a game. Remember, the world was going to end in 12 years? Remember that? Well, the 12 years has come and gone. It was going to end. It was going to all foam into earth. But, you know, the time has come. These people, and they really scared the Democrats large. I can't say the Republicans. The Republicans maybe could have fought harder to stop it, but it's been a tremendous waste of money. You know, during my 4 years, we had the cleanest air, we had the cleanest water, and yet we had the most productive economy in the history of our country. We had the most productive economy. Until COVID came, we had the most productive in the history of our country by far. And actually, you could look worldwide. We were beating everybody from China to everybody else. So, and we think we really now, with what we have learned and all of the other things that have taken place, we think we can even far surpass that, actually far surpass it. But we do, one thing we're going to be demanding is we're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. I don't know if it's good for them. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state. And if you're a state, we won't have a deficit. We won't have to tariff you, et cetera, et cetera. But Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years. And it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody. So, you know, just as an example, with Mexico, we're dealing with Mexico, I think, very well. And we're just, you know, we just want to be treated fairly with other nations, because there's hardly a nation in the world, and I blame this on us, and I blame it on politicians that, for some reason, I'm probably mostly it's stupidity, but you could also say other reasons, but mostly stupidity. They've allowed other nations to take advantage of the U.S., and we can't allow that to happen anymore. You know, we have debt. It's a very small debt when you compare it to the value of the assets that we have, but we don't want to do that. We want to just have debt be obliterated, and we'll be able to do that fairly rapidly. And a lot of good things are going to happen. And honestly, good things are going to happen for the world, and good things are going to happen for the people that are dealing with us, allies and beyond allies. One thing very important, I really would like to be able to meet with President Putin soon and get that war ended. And that's not from the standpoint of economy or anything else. It's from the standpoint of millions of lives are being wasted. Beautiful young people are being shot in the battlefield. You know, the bullet, very flat land, as I said, and the bullet goes, there's no hiding, and a bullet, the only thing going to stop the bullet is a human body. And you have to see, I've seen pictures of what's taken place. It's a carnage, and we really have to stop that war. That war is horrible. And I'm not talking economy, I'm not talking economics, I'm not talking about natural resource. I'm just talking about There's so many young people being killed in this war, and that's not including the people that have been killed as the cities are being, knocked down building by building. So we really should get that stopped. Likewise, in the Middle East, I think we've made a lot of progress in the Middle East, and I think that's gonna come along pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We know that the most consequential relationship in the world is between the U.S. and China. U.S. 28% of the global economy, China close to 20. That's almost half of the global GDP. And we know that you called President Xi Jinping last Friday. We heard that you had a good discussion. How do you see the relationship between the U.S. and China in the next 4 years under your leadership?
He called me, but I see it very good. I think that we're going to have a very good relationship. All we want is fairness. We just want a level playing field. We don't want to take advantage. We've been having massive deficits with China. Biden allowed it to get out of hand. He's $1.1 trillion deficit. It's ridiculous. And it's just an unfair relationship. And we have to make it just fair. We don't have to make it phenomenal. We have to make it a fair relationship. Right now, it's not a fair relationship. The deficit is massive, as it is with other countries, a lot of Asian countries, actually. But we have deficits that are very big, and we can't keep doing that. So we're not going to keep doing that. But I like President Xi very much. I've always liked him. We always had a very good relationship. It was very strained with COVID coming out of Wuhan. Obviously, that strained it. I'm sure it strained it with a lot of people, but that strained our relationship. But we always had a great relationship, I would say, and we look forward to doing very well with China and getting along with China. Hopefully, China can help us stop the war with, in particular, Russia, Ukraine. They have a great deal of power over that situation, and we'll work with them. And I mentioned that during our phone conversation with President Xi, and hopefully we could work together and get that stopped. We'd like to see denuclearization. In fact, with President Putin, prior to an election result, which was frankly ridiculous, we were talking about denuclearization of our two countries, and China would have come along. China has a much smaller, right now, nuclear armament than us, or field than us, but they're going to be catching it at some point over the next 4 or 5 years. And I will tell you that President Putin really liked the idea of cutting way back on nuclear, and I think the rest of the world, we would have gotten them to follow, and China would have come along too. China also liked it. Tremendous amounts of money are being spent on nuclear, and the destructive capability is something that we don't even want to talk about today because you don't want to hear it. It's too depressing. So we want to see if we can denuclearize, and I think that's very possible. And I can tell you that President Putin wanted to do it. He and I wanted to do it. We had a good conversation with China. They would have been involved, and that would have been an unbelievable thing for the planet.
Mr. President, when you're back here in Davos next year, will there be then a peace agreement with Ukraine and Russia by then?
Well, you're going to have to ask Russia. Ukraine is ready to make a deal. Just so you understand, this is a war that should have never started. If I were president, it would never have started. This is a war that should have never, ever been started. And it wasn't started during there was never even talk about it. I knew that it was the apple of President Putin's eye, but I also knew that there was no way he was going in, and he wasn't going to go in. And then when I was out, bad things happened, bad things were said, a lot of stupidity all around, and you end up with what you have. Now you have all these bombed out cities. They look like demolition sites with many people killed. I think the thing that you'll see about Ukraine is that far more people have died than is being reported. And I've seen that. But far, far more people have died. When you look at a city that's become a demolition site where big buildings have been collapsed by missiles, and they say one person was slightly injured. No. Many people were killed. Those are big buildings. I was surprised at how that was my business. These are buildings that go 2 and 3 blocks long. They're 20 stories high. They're big, powerful buildings, and they were knocked down, and there were a lot of people in those buildings. It announced that 2 people were injured. That's not true. So I think you're going to find that there were many more people killed in Ukraine in the Ukraine war than anybody has any idea. But if you look now, so many of the people being killed are soldiers just facing each other with guns, rifles, and drones, the new form of warfare, drones. And it's a very sad thing to see. And when you see pictures of the fields that I see, nobody wants to see it. You'll never be the same.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, on behalf of all the 3,000 participants here in Davos. We really underline that joining us the third day in your presidency, live taking questions here is so appreciated, and we are already ready for receiving you next year in person. So thank you very much, and all the best from Davos.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Moi, plusieurs moun commencé relem pour ban moi témoignage qui ça ti l'huile ça yo fait pour yo. M'gen 3 bouteilles l'huile nan même là, ti 3 ti bouteilles et gen une qui pi gros dans sa l'autre moun recevoir yo qui c'est une c'est l'huile de désenvoûtement ou bien l'huile de purification à base d'hysope, une c'est l'huile de prospérité hein, et l'autre là c'est l'huile de fertilité. Toi l'huile ça ressorti en Israël. Qui côté me joindre yo, comment me faire joindre yo? Au conseil fait me audace pour me présenter l'huile ça. Et d'abord me prend pile risque pour me faire ça parce que me sont protestant. Et en tant que protestant, on connaît que comment nous nanti soulier nous gon paquet de bagaille nous prend pour diable. C'est déjà son liberté me prend pour me présenter non l'huile ça. Moi j'ai plus que 2 ans depuis m'a servi avec l'huile ça. Et j'ai plusieurs autres bagailles qui sortent en Israël me dit nous ça. Qui côté me joindre? C'est parce que guys, m'était toujours à travail. Oui, m'était toujours à travail. M'gen doit faire 6 mois de travail, mais après 6 mois, faut que moi perde du travail là pour me tourner à zéro. Business moi doit marcher pendant 7 mois pour année, faut gon l'autre 5 mois qui pour manger tout petit ça m'te fait. M'ki doit bien marcher là dans mois ça, l'autre mois c'est moun qui pour prêter me pour me terminer mois, ça me fait pas que temps fini. L'aime senti ma bout à mode de vie tomber lever ça, que me pas ka utile tête moi rien malgré me travail, moi tomber prier. Moi acheter livre. Moins li. Bon, comme moi pas grand rien pour me faire encore, moi tomber dans préparer ministère. Moi al fait un jeûne pendant 21 jours. Pendant mal fait jeûne pendant 21 jours et puis me fin faire 21 jours, me senti en dom dim, me senti l'esprit qui en dom nan dim. C'est pour qu'on 21 jours, premier 21 jours ça, c'est pas pour me délivrer. Et même pour premier 21 jours, me fait pour la plénitude du Saint-Esprit. L'homme fin fait premier 21 jours, me parti dans deuxième 21 jours. Dans deuxième 21 jours, bon Dieu commence à l'ouvrir l'esprit, me son bonne bagaille. C'est alors que moi commence à chercher moyen, chercher pas qui moyen pour me gagner cob, pas qui moyen pour me réussir, pas qui moyen, m'a acheter livre, m'a pli. Et finalement, bon Dieu ouvre l'esprit sous l'huile de désenvoûtement. Automatiquement, mon joindre comme une révélation m'acheter. Mais madame, moi pas de quoi dans bagay ça yo, moun bon côté m'pas quoi ka utiliser l'huile ça yo, et bien me commencer à utiliser l'huile là. M'pas bon menti. M'pas bon aucun menti. Bon Dieu m'observe à l'attendem. Dans premier mois yo nan bénéfice dans business moi te qu'on a fait $1,000 bénéfice, 1,000 combien dollars? Bah la dure. Eh bien, Je commence à utiliser produit ça yo avec la foi, avec confiance. Premièrement, l'huile de désenvoûtement, c'est l'imité plus utilisée parce que me des sentiments voûtés. Il commençait bon résultat. Je passe 3 000. Je viens monter à 10 000. Jusqu'à ce que bon Dieu pète plafond avec moi. Sous rendement sur business moi. Le moins résultat pas moi dis pas peur même si on parle mal ou critiquer business pas me bien pas ça. Ou protestant pareillement ou dit pas qu'à servir la l'huile de désenvoûtement. Bon me bien pas ça. Pendant même son protestant qui dit que ou pas violer loi yo. Mais l'huile de désenvoûtement ou dit pas pour chrétien, même bien pas ça. Kay moins payer avant, bill moins payer avant, m'pas nan ferme. Et me senti conscience mon style clair. Moi dit m'a prend risque, m'a dit ou s'ouvre, ou senti ou à bout ak misère, ou à bout tout, ou senti ou envoûté, gon bagay qui bloque l'esprit ou use yo. Moi me prend exactement dans ligne spirituelle là parce que me songe dans Somme 51 et David a dit laver avec l'hysope. L'aime joindre l'huile salma que c'est à hysope yo fait me dit me prendre. L'aime fin prendre prospérité à use li tout. Après prospérité, on commence à use fidèle et on commence à use mais sacré fertilité. Prospérité ali même c'est à quoi BMB avec chaque jour m'oblige c'est à quoi chaque jour mon bouteille parce que depuis le fini, il va pas dans biome, il va pas dans machine moins, sous descendre dans machine on va mon bouteille. Dans biome on va mon bouteille. Là caillement on va mon bouteille parce que côté me passer, on gagne petit prospérité ma avec. On pas bon mentir me prospérer. Oui me prospérer. Il pas bon seulement pour moun délivrer économiquement, mais socialement, spirituellement, ou senti laisse pour vous faire, mais ou pas qu'à penser, ou pas qu'à réfléchir. Tout ça ou des résultats. C'est ça que fait me dire, m'a prend un risque là. Et depuis bon Dieu, bon mon révélation pour me faire un bagage, me fait. Me pas ta vendre l'huile de désenvoûtement. Me t'a conseiller moun. Le moi ou pas qu'on côté pour yo joindre ni. Et ben me dit moun yo voyez yo pour moi pas stock. Et puis, vous voyez. Et puis, l'autre monde qui commence à use yo, commence à avoir de très bons résultats, bons témoignages. Soit utiliser l'huile de désenvoûtement et prospérité, fertilité, et là, bon résultat, tout plus, vous un voice pour moi. Parce que moi, j'ai un ami qui dit là, il n'est pas capable d'utiliser comme tout, il n'est pas capable de comme tout. Et automatiquement, il commence à utiliser l'huile là, Jodi a commencé à construire Kaili. Je vais quitter notre temps de voice ça. Et puis, son témoignage, je voulais partager avec vous. Je voulais partager cette expérience avec vous pour qu'on ait que ce n'est pas un fab, ce n'est pas un show, ce n'est pas juste un business, mais il y a un résultat derrière produit ça. Alors, je ne sais pas qu'on ça fait un résultat. Je ne sais pas qu'on ça fait ça. Mais moi, je n'ai pas le résultat. Merci beaucoup.
Mon cher, premier travail là, on est fruit. Premier travail là, 3 louis. Parce que dans le pays il y a longtemps, je n'ai jamais eu une vision caille. On est fait 3 ben yo, je fait tout ça, je fait yo. Quand il y a la messe dans le sol caille là, t'as les blocs pour le poser et dit que un travail qui fait. Un gros travail qui fait. C'est la félicitation. AMT paye pile cob, on va régler. Bon Dieu pour nous tout, nous pas monde qui a alcaï beaucoup et non bon Dieu nous toujours quoi. Et ça fait me plus happy acheter bon. Je sens qu'il fait gros travail moi. Il fait gros effet.
Information, c'est plus gros âme qui existe. Si vous ne vivez pas informé, autant qu'on machine qui marche la nuit sans lumière. Informé, c'est une, mais bien informé, c'est un l'autre. Et bien, dans ce cas, ça, je préfère MPH01, un channel qui pas dans vous remonter. Sur MPH, ou pas seulement entendre mon ouais, ou pas seulement ouais non, mon preuve. Nous toujours entendre en pile journaliste qui vous remonter. MPH pas comme ça. Eh bien, ou jeune beau channel là oui, abonnez kounya, invitez zanmou faire ça, activez ti cloche notification pour qu'a toujours été informé. Et ça belle là, sous gon question ou qu'a poser le commentaire et puis y a répond nous dans une vidéo pour porter réponse avec question te posé. MPH c'est ou lié et ou l'a toujours lié. Aïe.
Pendant que vous regardez la vidéo, regardez à droite, vous voyez un bouton qui est en noir qui marqué souscrire mais ça c'est espagnol. Si c'est en anglais, tu as marqué subscribe. C'est en français, tu as marqué s'abonner. Cliquez sur le bouton ça. Là, on finit cliquer sur lui, ou après une petite cloche bon côté. Cliquez sur cette cloche là tout. Sur cette cloche là, ou après l'on abonner automatiquement le passe sous première option. Ou après flèche là sous deuxième option. Retirez flèche là sous deuxième option, mettez-le sous première option que c'est tout. Ça veut dire chaque fois monter une vidéo, ou joindre une notification. Et puis pas oublier, là gon like en bas vidéo ça.